Your best posture is your maximum height that you can hold effortlessly and carry through any terrain you want to on this planet. Where there are weaknesses in your body that you might just think you have weaker glutes, you just have weaker calves, these weaknesses have alignment gains waiting for you. I have a very severe structural kyphosis. So as I've been unraveling over the past 6 or 7 years now, increasing my height almost 2 inches, this video will give you some ideas about what it looks like to attack those weaknesses. Let's dive into it. So when our posture is imbalanced or we have misalignments, our body compensates. It creates a natural brace in places that it doesn't need to, and other parts of our body that should be working are put out of a job. So as always, I start my session by listening, and really I'm becoming aware of any parts of my body that are tenser than they should be, or not as active or not as strong and stable as they should be. So jumping around, hopping are great ways to do that. I am targeting legs today, so I'm going to start with a hip hinge, which is great for activating and practicing that brain to butt connection. I'm also activating the postural pyramid, right? So activating and tucking the glutes down, bracing the lower abdominal core to push those hips and pelvis down. At the same time, opening and extending my mid-upper thoracic back as I'm breathing into my diaphragm, especially on the left and back side, because I know that's where my concavity and collapse is in the structure. So here, thanks to my brain and body connections, I'm literally elongating my spine as I breathe and create space in the middle of my spine, giving me alignment, flow, and elongation. Be mindful of how you're distributing your weight on your feet. Your connection to the ground is very important with this. I like to shift my weight forward. Now that I'm tapped in, I played around with using my spiral myofascial bands, which go from my toes all the way to my tongue. And by clenching and activating those spiral bands, I was actually able to encourage that derotation of the thoracic rib cage, which happens with scoliosis. One way to understand this is like when you squeeze the toothpaste from the bottom of the tube. That's essentially what I'm doing from the toes up to the tongue. I do practice both sides to have the awareness and the ability to flex on both sides. Think of it as a superhero flexing as they punch. So I don't do bar squats. That's definitely been a limiting factor to put on size in my legs over the years. Putting on load onto the spine with a bar is not a great idea for someone with scoliosis and kyphosis unless it's very light. And they're kind of starting from where they're at. They've unraveled their compensations. So here, the sumo squat allows you to kind of take off some of the load from the spine and into your shoulders and arms as you align yourself vertically over your hips, knees, and toes. This wide stance is also great for hip alignment. I noticed that holding the kettlebells in front of me was exaggerating the kyphosis a little bit, so I moved them to the back of my legs and actually got a good kind of weight distribution here to stay aligned as I go through the sumo squat. I really like this, along with the horse stance, which is very similar to this. Okay, so let's move on to the calves here. I'm realizing the calves are more important than ever because, especially the soleus muscle, it's essentially like a second heart, as in it's pumping blood and circulating blood through our entire system. And I feel like I've gotten a lot of calf gains over the years just from the other work that I've been doing, but I'm definitely going to be focusing more on this because in this session I discovered that I had some weaknesses in certain ranges of motion that I know will, as I work them and understand them and accept them and start from where I'm at, I'm going to get alignment from that. And here I'm actually realizing that during these right here, you'll see me wiggling my spine. That's because I'm basically integrating some of the alignment gains that happen as I work this part of my myofascial chain. You might notice I'm using a hip thrust machine here. We didn't have a calf machine, but you got to do what you got to do. So this is another way to really target the calf. And here I was pretty ambitious. That ankle should be flexing and extending through this movement, but I realized I picked up way too much weight. So I got a lighter weight and attempted to keep doing the movement, but realized that, I really needed to start from scratch with this movement. Drop the ego and just go to where you need to. Use training wheels, use assistance as much as you need to get into these movements, and do them with form, do them with awareness. It is about targeting the right places and getting the movement right, getting that brain body connection right through that range of motion, not trying to just lift the most amount through that motion as you can. Going slower, going light will give you so much more value from the process. The important part is the ankle really flexing and extending here, and as you can see, it's all kind of wonky as I'm trying to get that generating force nicely. So plenty to work on in that area. Here I'm moving on to some lunge slams. So this is a functional patterns movement that I've modified slightly to add in a bit of a hamstring movement as well, to get that range of motion where I want to, as I notice it through the move. You'll see that I've got a very fixed structural curve in my spine, as in fixed as in it's immobile. Around a few vertebrae above and below my T10 vertebrae, I do not have much movement at all. Is that going to stop me from getting out here and practicing and attempting to kind of move and use that area? Absolutely not. I am not going to let gravity collapse and crush my spine. So I am going to create my maximum highest posture. And this movement, on each step that I'm doing, as I lift the ball, I'm feeling the force generation. I'm feeling myself torque up through that step and then slamming down as if I was generating the maximum amount of force I could. You'll see the force generates at the toes, the legs, up through the chest, arms, and it slams. So each step here is, imagine a line of tension, a torque of tension, like a missile going, a torpedo of tension through your body from the ground up on each one of these steps. Now, obviously, I have a lot of dysfunction throughout my entire body chain because of this very severe curve. So each one of these movements, I'm going slow as I need to. Whenever I come across any types of tension, resistance, or weakness, I'm bringing my attention there, I'm slowing down, and I'm going into it. I'm learning about it. Sometimes you'll see the wriggles, and that's where I'm kind of integrating the alignment that happens. I do this one forwards and back as well. By the way, this whole session, I didn't realize my exposure was up on the camera, so things are a little blown out with the light, but I think we still get the idea of what we're doing here. Everyone needs something different for their bodies each day, especially when we're dealing with unraveling, aligning, and fortifying spirals. So it's hard for me to tell you, do this exercise 3 times and 4 sets of 10 repetitions and 3 times a week and blah, blah, blah. You need to listen to your body and give it what it needs on that day. So that is what I teach with this kind of stuff. This type of exercise, I'm doing it until I fatigue, until I'm like, okay, my body has felt that pattern of movement that I'm giving it and challenging it with. Okay, moving on to some farmer's carries. These are great for feeling weight being distributed through your body as you take each step, as well as some upper body, some traps. It's really a full body workout that you got going on here that is going to generate power and force and really kind of give you a chance to observe your body functioning as a complete chain. Again, I'll do these as long as I feel like I need to until I've given my body a lesson of this movement. So this one I've shown you before using some light dumbbells in each hand. This time I'm using a resistance band, and I kind of liked it because it also helps illustrate what I'm kind of doing in this position. And I do want you to notice how my hands facing up and down are actually adding to the twist here. There is a twist that's happening on each one of these. It's kind of like wringing out a towel, and each step here, one palm is going up and one palm is going down. What I'm doing here is essentially combining some myofascial maneuvers from Human Garage and some functional movements from Functional Patterns, and I'm combining them into a movement which I loved. I loved this one. This one got some profound alignment happening. This really is like squeezing my entire myofascial chain from my toes to my tongue. You can see a lot of alignment wriggles happening on each one of these steps here. The more aware you are of your myofascial musculoskeletal system and how it is all integrated, and the power and the potential you have in your brain to do things with it, the more nutritious, the more valuable this type of movement becomes. Go slowly, go deep, and your breath is the pathway to that deepness. We're not here to just bang out a certain number of reps in a certain type of pose and you're magically fixed. This is about going deep into connecting with your body and giving it what it needs to. That's why we have a mapping your posture module inside of the Heightmaxxing protocol, so that you understand how your spine goes through your body so you can do stuff like this. And that's what it looks like when you get that type of deep alignment. And as you align, you are actually changing your entire structure. And what that actually means is that sometimes you actually lose strength. I've been stronger in pull-ups before, but when I actually change my height, my entire myofascial musculoskeletal system needs to work together differently. I need to recreate balance and recreate strength at different times in my journey, because as I unlock a new height, I'm unlocking a new center of gravity in my body, which means that all of these little tiny mind body connections need to be reestablished and re-strengthened. Especially when there's so many different areas and focuses that I've had. If I stop practicing my pull-ups for a while, I also lose some strength gain in there as well. So I continually have different benchmarks, different goals of things that I want to do that require the coordinated strength that I'm building as I kind of focus on different areas at a time. So by working towards a muscle up, I identify the weakness of not being able to open up my chest and extend my thoracic as much as I'd like to and need to pull off that movement. So here I'm kind of specifically honing in on that weakness in order to target it and eventually get that muscle up. I'm also working towards a single leg pistol squat. So here you'll see I'm doing some low pulley pulls, which are activating from a very deep place a lot of muscles that are required for the single leg pull up. There's a few things that need to happen, but I know my psoas and hip flexors have been pretty dysfunctional because of all of the imbalances. They've been working in different ways, so these types of movements allow me to pretty well target that area and start getting them to fire how I want them to, when I want them to. Here I'm doing some leg curls. I'm bracing my lower abdominal core. I'm watching my inhales and exhales to coordinate with the movement. I'm going for more expansion of my breath into the lower back as I'm doing this. When you do lower body and leg day with awareness, you will be surprised how much alignment can come from your legs. So I'm aiming to do 10,000 steps a day, and also to do a 30-second sprint each workout. This is shown to boost testosterone, and I'm also enjoying it because it brings a lot of all of what we're working on together. After a workout like I've just shown you, I feel different when I sprint. I feel better. I feel things moving more smoothly, more buttery. And then recording it like this, I do recommend, because you can watch your gait. You can see what's happening. I think deep down a sprint is associated with a life or death situation. It's activating something very primal, and I think that's why it wakes up a part of us that I do think we should be connected to. Not doing this will kind of disconnect you from a power within you. Have a look at that. That is Raw Gym in Bali. If you haven't already, join posturedojo.com. Inside you'll find the Heightmaxxing protocol, which you can unlock for free using our engagement reward system. You'll also be able to access the conversations that we're having comments are all over the place on social media, and so we have an actual conversation around these videos as well as some of the techniques that I'm discussing. And you'll get access to a support network of other people who are on this journey. It's a marathon, and it's a journey onwards and upwards, and it's more fun together. So see you inside posturedojo.com.